Welcome to the Gnostic Hub. I'm your host, Elizabeth. Today we are going to study a very interesting and much needed subject called self-observation and self-remembering. The reason why I'm certain this is going to be an interesting subject is because during our day-to-day activities, we normally go about observing others and our surroundings, but rarely observing ourselves. Just as we discussed before on dealing with negative emotions and how we should be on the lookout when they make an appearance, it's exactly how we will be observing ourselves. This is part of the fundamental practices for a radical self-transformation. In this world, there are three types of relationships. First, we have the relationship we have with ourselves and our physical body. Second, we have the relationship between us and the exterior world. And third, we have the relationship between a person with his or her inner self. So now, let's dive into what each one of these types of relationships are and what they look like. Relationship number one, the physical body. Our physical body is sometimes healthy, sometimes sick. There is no doubt that the physical body, given its tremendous and complex organization, is certainly much beyond our own comprehension. We always believe that we know some knowledge about our physical body. But truly, if we are really honest, not even the best scientists in the world know everything there is to know about the body of flesh and bone. In many occasions, we can observe that our incorrect relation with our own body equates many times to physical illness. For example, let's just think about one repetitive act we perform that we know for a fact causes harm to our body. That could be maybe something we consider a bad habit. And we do it regardless because it provides some type of satisfaction, whether conscious or unconsciously. Relationship type number two, the exterior world. Regarding the second type of relationship, we can say that we always consider ourselves victims of circumstances. It is unfortunate that we have not yet learned how to consciously originate our own circumstances and have to live our lives at the mercy of exterior influences. There's a couple of beautiful quotes I always try to remember. Don't wait for opportunity, create it. Success doesn't just find you. You have to go out and get it. But also, we need to remember that success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. Many people are incapable of adapting themselves to anything or anyone or to have true success in life. And that is because, unfortunately, they are always looking for someone to do the work for them. They do not want the liability of their own failures. The third type of relationship is the one with our inner self. It is evident that the physical body as well as worldly matters are exterior to ourselves and are the relationships that we care the most about. The third kind of relationship, the one with our inner self, for the most part, we overlook and are absolute indifferent towards it. This brings us to a puzzling subject that we must understand and address before moving forward. This is the subject of the doctrine of the many. Our greatest misfortune is that we think that we are thinking. We feel that we are feeling, when in reality it is another mental character who in any given moment thinks with our brain and feels with our heart. It is important for us to understand that we are being constantly manipulated by many internal characters that disguise themselves as emotions or thoughts that lead into actions. They are a group of entities that enjoy certain self-independence and make us believe that we are in control, when all along we are only vehicles for their actions. These characters quarrel amongst themselves, and the mind is their battlefield. Each one of them projects itself in the different levels of the mind, trying to satisfy their raw instincts, nourishing themselves on our mental energy. I will give you an example on how these characters fight for our attention. Have you ever felt that you want to watch TV and you go to your living room or to your bedroom and start watching TV, and all of a sudden you have a sudden urge of eating something, having a snack or something? Then you make your way to the kitchen and start, fixing yourself a sandwich. Next thing you know, you're on your phone looking at some social media. The mind demands so much from us all the time, bombarding us with thoughts of the present, the past, and the future, that most people complain is not being able to quiet the mind. All these mental internal characters we have housed within our mind violently consume our energy in explosions of anger, greed, envy, etc. We observe that every day, all the time. It doesn't matter where we are. And if we are not able to put a stop to those characters, we become victims of them. The moment that we decide to take on this task of observing ourselves from the perspective that the character is not one, but many, that's the moment when we really begin to work on all that is carried within. For example, let's take another scene to give you an insight on how all these characters play with our mind. Let's say that a husband sees his wife talking to a male friend, and she's laughing and seems to be enjoying his company. If the husband is the jealous type, the first thought that will come to his mind is that she's flirting and therefore she must be cheating. A second thought could be that the guy is being disrespectful towards him because he's trying to steal his wife. And thinking about this particular scene can bring us into many other different thoughts. So at that moment, this person is not being attacked by just one character or just one thought, but is being attacked by many that reflect into different types of emotions. He might be experiencing anger, jealousy, pride, and all of those are what we have considered negative emotions. This whole thing will enrage him, leading him to come up with some conclusion before even asking the first question. Right there, we have an example on how all these characters, the ones we are talking about, work in teams, not individually, meaning they are many, not just one. Therefore, we see that we cannot consider each thought, sentiment, desire, emotion, passion, or affection as different and unchangeable functionalisms of our own nature. We don't have to justify ourselves. Anyone that decides to take the path of self-observation needs to take this work very seriously. It is not an easy path, but as any athlete of inner self-observation, we will need to exert upon ourselves the effort to separate our psyche from the diverse undesirable elements which we carry within. The observation of ourselves needs to be 100% a conscious or active action and not a passive one. As we work on ourselves, we come to comprehend each time more and more the need for us to change in the way we think, in the way we act, and mainly in the way that we react. While we personally go through the most difficult times, the most critical situations, those situations that make you cry, where you feel that you are broken, those are the times which are the most essential for inner self-discovery. It is important to coexist with our friends, family, neighbors, strangers, simply because during these interactions with people, it allow us to clearly see ourselves for who we are. Like a mirror, during these interactions with people, our defects flourish. And if we are vigilant, we are able to see them. I'm going to make a small parenthesis to give you a very small example. When we criticize someone a lot, if we see someone and we think of that person, it may be a friend, maybe your boss, maybe someone related to you, and we are always looking at one particular defect that they have, let's say someone that has a lot of pride, right? And we always say, oh my God, that person, she's so proud, or she's always doing this and she's always doing that. If we turn that criticism towards ourselves, as we said in our previous video, we might find that the pride that we are discovering on that person might be a self-reflection of our own. We are living in this world for some reason, for something, for some special factor. There is much in us that we must see, study, and comprehend. It is clear that only through inner self-observation shall we be able to see the characters that live in our psyche, and that we need to be eliminating them in order to achieve a radical transformation. Once we are able to remove all those negative characters, emotions, and useless chatter, then and only then we will be able to achieve inner peace. And we will be on the path to a true relationship with our inner self. This world is a psychological gymnasium. And just like a regular gymnasium, we have to exercise every day to achieve our goals. And what is our goal? Achieving a true relationship with our inner self. Change is necessary, but it's impossible to change if we don't know how or where to begin. Well, this is how we begin, as I have been explaining throughout this series of videos. If we, instead of identifying ourselves and becoming fascinated by our thoughts and our surroundings, stop and remember who we are internally, we would put an end to the control we relinquish over to the psychological characters we have been imprisoned by for so long. This concludes this week's session on self-observation and self-remembering. And just as promised, we are going to give you another technique to help you start on your path to self-observation. This week's exercise is going to be a practice known as the SOP Key, which stands for Subject, Object, and Place. The 3 steps to self-observation. Step 1. Subject. We need to always keep reminding ourselves not only about our physical state, but also we need to watch our own thoughts, feelings, emotions, wants, fears, desires, etc. To do this, ask yourself, who am I? The correct answer to that question is not, I'm John Smith, even if your name is John Smith. It should be what emotion you are feeling at that given moment. What do I feel right now? How do you feel? Do you feel angry? Do you feel afraid? Do you feel jealous? Do you feel anxious? Are you feeling depressed? Identify the emotion that has taken over at that precise moment. Now we move into step 2. It seems to me that this second step, object, is quite intriguing because it is related with becoming inquisitive about objects. That is, with not becoming identified with circumstances. You should ask yourself, what am I doing? And observe your body and mind at that moment in time. Now let's take another example to illustrate step 2. Let's just say that you are at a stadium watching a game of basketball, football, soccer, any sport you like. And if your favorite team is winning, you cheer, you laugh, you sing. You are overwhelmed by everything that is surrounding you. The music, the cheerleaders, the food, the players. But if a fan from the opposite team were to yell at your favorite player some offensive word and they start throwing punches and you are identified with the situation, most likely you will end up in the emergency room. Or even worse, maybe even get arrested for disorderly conduct. Another example, let's say that you are in your car and you're driving to work. You probably experienced this before. When you know that you got in your car and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're already at work. You don't even know how you got there. That happens because we are all in a state of a dream. And truly, we daydream all day long. It's kind of putting our mind on cruise control by those characters we have been talking about. Those characters that live in our mind. At that moment, when you get to work, you get out of the car and you don't know how you got there, your mind is not clear. It actually even feels foggy. Or maybe that example got even worse. While you were in your car and you fell into that daydream, you end up causing an accident for not being in the moment because you got distracted with your thoughts. We always need to be asking ourselves, what am I doing? And observe our physical body and how it reacts to the circumstances. If you see two people having a fight, remove yourself from the quarrel. Don't be an uninvited victim. And finally, step 3. We should not live unconsciously. And let me give you a good example. When we arrive at any place, anywhere, we must observe all of our surroundings in detail, meticulously, observing every detail, and thereafter ask ourselves, where am I? Why am I in this place? I'm pretty sure that if we were talking face to face and I were to ask you to give me a meticulous detail of your place of work, you would probably hesitate or miss quite a few of the details. When we get anywhere, we have to look at everything. Look at the floor, look at the ceilings, look at the walls, what color they are. Look at every single details. How many light switches? Are there any plugs? Everything. It will allow us to stay alert and vigilant. Thank you for joining us this week. It's been a delight sharing with you this wonderful Gnostic knowledge. We sincerely hope that this knowledge truly reaches the deepest levels of your conscience and provides you with that much needed comfort through this journey. Don't give up, and remember, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, I walk slowly, but never backwards. We hope to see you back here next week. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Gnostic Hub for weekly video updates. So let it be written, so let it be done. See you all in the next video.